Good afternoon, dear audience. It is my pleasure to moderate this session today. And I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Wakabi, and I am the Executive Director of CIPESA, which is the Collaboration on International ICT Policy for Eastern and Southern Africa, a think tank that works on issues at the intersection of technology, human rights, governance, and livelihoods. Today, we are bringing together notable speakers from across various regions to discuss data governance in line with the IGF sub-theme of building digital cooperation. The session aims to contribute to interregional dialogue among policymakers and civil society leaders from West Africa, from the Eastern Partnership, and the Western Balkans to leverage common knowledge. I am from East Africa myself, which wasn't mentioned among those regions, so there's also some insights that will come out of there. On this note, to kick us off, I would like to invite our host, who is the Minister of Information from the Gambia, to share his welcome remarks. Dr. Ismaila Cisse, please take the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Wakabi. Thank you for that introduction. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor to join you today for this very important discussion on advancing data governance across regions as we collectively seek pathways toward trusted, inclusive, and interoperable data governance across borders. In an increasingly digital world, data is a critical enabler of development, innovation, and rights. For the Gambia, harnessing data responsibly is key to driving economic growth, improving service delivery, and protecting the dignity and rights of our people. The Gambia is embracing the digital age with ambition and purpose. We recognize that digital transformation is not just a matter of technological advancement. For us, it is a catalyst for inclusive growth, innovation, and good governance. Our national broadband policy, our digital ID initiatives, and e-government platforms are all part of the comprehensive strategy to bridge the digital divide, empower citizens, and modernize our economy. We have made significant strides in putting data governance at the core of our digital development agenda. We are currently implementing our national data protection and privacy policy, grounded in principles of accountability, transparency, and human rights. Steps are also underway to establish an independent data protection authority, which will oversee the enforcement of data governance principles and build trust with citizens, businesses, and regional partners. We are also committed to finishing the development of the Gambian National Data Governance Policy, supported by the African Union and the European Union. The Gambia is actively engaged in regional frameworks on the ECOWAS and the African Union, including alignment with the EU data policy framework. We recognize the interoperability, regulatory harmonization, and mutual trust are essential for effective cross-border data flows in Africa and beyond. We believe that effective cross-border data governance can unlock tremendous value, facilitating trade, strengthening regional integration, and enabling secure data flows across borders. We believe that international cooperation must be fair, inclusive, and development-oriented. We are fully aware that no country can do this alone. Advancing data governance across borders requires trust, coordination, and shared values. As countries in the Global South, we seek equitable participation in shaping global digital rules, and we emphasize the need for capacity support, infrastructure investments, and data governance models that reflect our local realities. The Gambia stands ready to work with partners on the continent and globally to build a data governance ecosystem that is secure, rights-respecting, and fit for the digital age. Let us advance together, bridging borders and building trust in the digital world. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for outlining the Gambia's efforts in its digital development agenda and also outlining its commitment to cooperative data governance. As Dr. Cisse has touched on, the domestic as well as cross-border necessity to govern data effectively is crucial. And so to explore common challenges and valuable experiences from different regions, we are going to hear from our panelists and dive deeper into the varying contexts that can enable us to be able to accelerate responsible, future-ready, and rights-based data governance globally. I will therefore introduce our panelists today, beginning with next to Dr. Sise Milan Marinovic, who was appointed Commissioner for Access to Public Information of Importance and Personal Data Protection of Serbia in 2019. Previously, Mr. Marinovic served as judge in different courts. He has authored various publications and participated in various working groups drafting and amending legislation in Serbia. And next to him, we have Dr. Olga Kyrylyuk, who currently serves as chair of the Eastern European IGF, leading multi-stakeholder cooperation across 18 countries in the region. She's internationally recognized as an expert in digital governance, internet freedom, and international law with over 12 years of experience at the intersection of technology, policy, and human rights. And to my left, we have Mary Sherian, the co-founder of Digital Armenia, an NGO focused on advancing digital transformation through inclusive, user-centered approaches. As an IT expert, she is specializing in digital transformation in the public sector and public administrative systems, and she has extensive experience working within government institutions as well as with the development institutions. To the extreme left, we have Tatu Mambetalieva, the Director of Civil Initiative on Internet Policy based in Kyrgyzstan. She's also the initiator and founder of the public platform Kyrgyz Forum on Information Technology, KIT Forum, the annual Central Asian Forum on Internet Governance, which is a regional initiative of the Global Internet Governance Forum created under the auspices of the UN. We also have a participant online who has not been able to join us, and that is Folake Olagunju, the Acting Director of Digital Economy and Post at the Economic Community of West African States Commission, where she leads the Digitalization Directorate. We will now hear from our panelists, and to set the stage and get a sense of the state of data governance in the Gambia and Serbia, we'll start with Dr. Sise first. As the Gambia continues to develop its digital infrastructure and data policies, where are the country's priorities and challenges in developing and implementing effective national data governance frameworks, and how they align with the broader strategies of the African Union and the ECOWAS?
Thank you very much once again, Mr. Moderator. As for our priorities, our number one priority is institutional capacity building. Now, as the Gambia is advancing the development of a comprehensive national data governance framework to support digital government, evidence-based policy making, and public service delivery, this initiative is supported by UNDESA and includes a series of stakeholder consultations and capacity building workshops led by the Ministry of Communication and Digital Economy of the Gambia. Our other priority also focus on legal and regulatory reforms. For example, we have the data protection and privacy legislation, which is currently in Parliament. This is building on the National Data Protection and Privacy Policy of 2019. The Gambia has formulated the Data Protection and Privacy Bill 2023, which is currently before the National Assembly. The bill provides a robust legal framework covering data subject rights, controller and processor responsibilities, transborder data flows, processing principles, safeguards, enforcement mechanisms, and sanctions. Under these reforms, we also have the statistical system reform. This is under the National Strategy for the Development of Statistics. The 2025 Statistics Act is being revised to strengthen coordination across the national statistical system. This reform aligns with the National Development Plan 2023 to 2027 Agenda 2063, the ECOWAS Regional Statistical Strategy, and the UN SDGs. We also have the National Data Policy reforms. With support from GIZ and UNDESA, the National Data Policy has been validated and is pending cabinet submission. It aims to harmonize data governance across sectors and establish a foundation for secure, inclusive, and rights-based use. Another priority is the whole of government approach. The MOCD, which is the ministry responsible for digital economy, is spearheading cross-sectoral coordination to ensure that data governance is embedded across ministries, departments, and agencies. Once adopted, the policy will address data protection, cybersecurity, open data, and access to information, while balancing freedom of expression with the mitigation of online harm such as disinformation and misinformation. Our fourth priority is aligning with developmental goals. The National Data Policy is a cornerstone of the Gambia's broader digital transformation agenda, aligning with the Digital Transformation Strategy 2024 to 2028, Digital Economy Master Plan 2024 to 2034, and Government Open Data Strategy 2024 to 2027. It supports the NDP, SDGs, and Agenda 2063 by promoting data availability, accessibility, and interoperability to drive innovation, transparency, and inclusive development. Our challenges, particularly the persistent ones. One is capacity gaps. Many ministries, departments, and agencies lack the technical and analytical capabilities to manage and utilize data effectively. A second challenge is fragmentation. The national data ecosystem remains siloed with inconsistent standards for data collection, storage, and sharing. Another challenge we are facing is the digital divide, inequities in digital access and literacy, particularly across rural and undeserved populations. This limits inclusive participation in data-driven governance. And finally, our alignments with EU and ECOWAS strategies. The Gambia's data governance reforms are closely aligned with the African Union's data policy framework, which emphasizes data sovereignty, cross-border data flows, and inclusive digital economies. At the regional level, the Gambia is also actively engaged in the ECOWAS Supplementary Act on Personal Data Protection, which is expected to be endorsed by heads of state in the upcoming summit. These efforts underscore the Gambia's commitment to regional harmonization and digital trust.
Thank you very much. That's a handful of measures that are being implemented to advance data governance in spite of the challenges, and it would be good to hear if the challenges are also shared across regions. But I have a follow-up question. The Gambia also recently launched a 5-year strategic plan to strengthen good governance. Its pillars include to improve transparency and access to information, to boost public participation, and strengthen institutional capacity and good governance. Could you please describe to us what is the role of the Ministry of Information that you lead in building public trust around data governance?
Now, while the Ministry of Digital Economy leads on technical and regulatory aspects, the Ministry of Information, which I lead, plays a critical role in fostering public trust and civic engagement. One of the things we do, and which is our mandate, is public awareness and digital literacy activities. The ministry is responsible for sensitizing citizens on their data rights, the value of open data, and the safeguards in place to protect personal information. This includes campaigns to demystify data governance and promote responsible digital citizenship. Another initiative and activities we do is which focus on transparency and access to information. As a key pillar of the 2025-2029 strategic plan, the ministry is expected to champion proactive disclosure of government-held data, thereby reinforcing transparency and accountability in public institutions. We also engage in media engagement and narrative framing. By collaborating with public and private media, the ministry also shapes inclusive narratives that build confidence in digital reforms, counter misinformation and disinformation, and promote calm and stability during periods of digital transition. And finally, we also engage in stakeholder dialogue and inclusion. The ministry serves as a bridge between government, civil society, and the public, facilitating participatory dialogue to ensure that data governance policies reflect citizen concerns and uphold democratic values.
Thank you very much. We'll hear now from Commissioner Marinovic of Serbia which has equally made significant progress in developing a rights-based data governance framework with a particular emphasis on the protection of personal data. Commissioner, what have been the regulatory and institutional challenges of balancing compatibility between digital and data systems with the protection of fundamental rights?
Thank you, Mr. Wakabi. Dear all, greetings from Serbia to everyone. First of all, I want to thank GIZ for the invitation to participate in such an important event. Also, with GIZ support, we plan to raise capacities of policymakers and IT experts in the field of data privacy in Serbia. In the early beginning, let me share with you my experience. Every time I find myself at such a large and important event dedicated to digitalization and the use of modern technologies, I, as someone who deals with the protection of personal data, feel like a cat at a dog's exhibition. It is an extraordinary pleasure and honor, but also a responsibility to be with you today at this fantastic forum. Protection of personal data, as well as the right to privacy in general, is one of the most threatened fundamental human rights in today's era of rapid development of modern technologies, widespread digitalization, and enormous use of artificial intelligence. That is why it is extremely difficult to find the appropriate balance between digital and data systems and the protection of personal data. Difficult, but not impossible. What is most important in creating that balance? Parallel, balanced development of both sides of the same story. This means that the accelerated development of digitalization in all areas of life must be accompanied by the development of personal data protection systems. Digitalization in general and artificial intelligence in particular cannot exist without data processing, especially personal data. They feed and depend on data. The processing of data is certainly necessary and useful, and it will be more and more in the future. But as the processing of personal data grows, so must grow protection of this data. Just as day cannot exist without night, summer without winter, so the processing of personal data cannot exist without its protection. There is a strong link between the processing and protection of personal data. This implies many things, of which I will mention only those which, in my opinion, are the most important. As a first, strengthening the system and the measures for the protection of personal data. As a second, strengthening data protection authorities around the world. As a third, strengthening cooperation and collaboration between data protection authorities from all over the world. Fourth, establishing and strengthening the communication and cooperation of the regulatory bodies with the most important controllers and processors of personal data, such as big tech companies and social networks. And fifth, last but not the least, raising the level of awareness of citizens about the importance of personal data protection.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I think all DPAs and many of us are always grappling with best ways in which we can be able to balance those two elements. And you've said parallel balanced development of both is the key. But you also mentioned the issue of deeper cooperation between DPAs in different countries. In your role, where you sit, what kind of cross-border and interregional cooperation is happening between different data protection authorities.
Speaking of cross-border and inter-regional cooperation between data protection authorities, I would like to take this unique opportunity to introduce to you an initiative that I promoted this spring at the Privacy Symposium in Venice. My idea is to form an association of DPAs named EADPA, Association of DPA, from all over the world, on global level in online format. I call this future association EADPA, and idea is that all regulators, regardless of their status in the country they are from, have the opportunity to exchange practices in the field of personal data protection, to exchange their experience, provide mutual legal assistance, and solve common problems in a simple, easy, and efficient way on bilateral and multilateral level. As a first step in the realization of this idea, I plan next week to send to all DPAs in the world email in which I will explain the idea of creating an association and ask them, did they support this idea, and if they would like to be members of the future association. Depending on the answer, the activities we will undertake will also depend.
Thank you very much. Great initiative. We hope you will be also partnering and associating with the other actors, academia, civil society, etc., and they will not feel like cats at dogs exhibitions.
No, I hope so.
So thank you, our distinguished speakers, for those valuable insights into national approaches to foster regulated and inclusive data governance, with many lessons learned and a couple of common challenges. We would now like to invite our regional experts to contribute to this discussion by bringing their experience from West Africa and Southeastern Europe. We are going to begin with Folake Olagunju, who is online, but was introduced. In the region, Folake, there's a lack of reliable data, and this can hamper evidence-based policymaking that is necessary for well-founded decision-making. How is the Economic Community for West Africa contributing to norm setting and coordination among its members to facilitate cross-border data flow? And what lessons can be shared with other regional blocs that are willing to follow suit?
Thank you very much, Wakani, for giving me the floor. And I must apologize for the noise. It's I'm at a conference center, so it's a bit hectic here. Very valid point. We do know that data is something we all struggle with. It's not just a West African issue. But for us at the ECOWAS Commission, we're looking to ensure that all the policy making we actually do is anchored based on an evidence-based approach. How do we do this? We try and prioritize the data that we get and ensure that there's inclusive engagement. We always ensure that our member states are right with us from the very beginning all the way to the end. It was interesting that the minister from the Gambia spoke about the Supplementary Act on Data Protection within West Africa. That is something we've just revised, and we're trying to ensure that it is adopted. That process actually went through from member states all the way through to the Council of Ministers. But before we did that, we actually make sure we do studies with different stakeholder groups across West Africa. So you've got your civil society, you've got your private sector. Every voice matters, because when you talk about data, it involves every single person. So it's not just about a whole of government. I understand why the Gambia is doing a whole of government, but for us at the regional perspective, we're looking at a whole of society, because this is absolutely vital. Now, one of the things we've done with the revision of the Supplementary Act for the data protection within ECOWAS is to look at how we can support cross-border data flow. And this is inter, intra, and across borders, because this is very, very important. It's about harmonization at the regional level, but not homogenization. So yes, we need to harmonize because we're a regional bloc. We have similarities, but then it needs to be homogeneous in a certain extent so that it's tailored to the different nuances of each member country. Stakeholder consultation remains absolutely key, and it's at the cornerstone of everything that we do at the ECOWAS Commission. We need to ensure that whatever we do is data-driven. Decisions need to have inclusive research. We need to ensure we've got academia. We need to ensure civil society for accountability. We need to ensure private sector because they bring the money to the table. We need governments because they are the ones that would actually operationalize whatever it is we do at the regional level. We're also trying to ensure that what we do aligns with the continental frameworks that we have. The minister spoke about not just Malabo Convention, but he also spoke about the ADPF. We look at continental frameworks as well. We're not working in silos. We ensure that what we do is actually of value to our member states, but also puts them in a right position to be able to actually interact with other regions, like you've rightly said, COMESA, SADC, and globally across. We're looking to align all our standards as well, because this is absolutely very important. So that's what we're doing at the moment in terms of harmonization and ensuring that we have evidence frameworks that are backed up with evidence. Like you rightly said, again, data, not easy to find, but I think if you're able to actually include people across what's the word I'm looking, a plethora of people in the process, you will actually see that at the end of the day, you get the buy-in and hopefully operationalization becomes a dot. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And as a follow-up, how does ECOWAS support the creation of favorable conditions for data governance in the region, and what stakeholders does it take to effectively implement the strategies?
That's an interesting question. So one of the things we're looking to do at the moment is actually have a regional instrument in place that will talk about open data. Now, why do we need open data? We're trying to ensure that all the frameworks that we put in place at the regional level will do three things: encourage transparency, promote interoperability, because that is absolutely key, and last but not least, but I think the most vital, is responsible data sharing. So data is only as good as who has it and who is willing to share it and how it's used. So we're doing that at the regional level. We're also looking at certain data priorities in the digital sector development strategy that we've got, and this is over 5 years. What we're trying to do is to ensure that we can define sensitive and non-sensitive data categories for our member countries. So what we find is when you ask someone to share data, they're a bit reluctant because they don't know which data needs to be sovereign and which data can be shared. And I think if we're able to actually elaborate a little bit more on this will actually help. Also, we're looking at technical and infrastructural standards. I know the Honorable Minister from the Gambia mentioned connectivity. That is something we're also looking at, because without connectivity, how do you even begin to share data or even have the conversations that would allow you to, get data and use data? We're looking at how we can help member countries transform from a more, I don't want to say analog government to a more interactive government. So we're looking at quite a number of our member countries have static information portals. So we're trying to see how we can actually elevate those portals so that they become more interactive for their member countries, and it will actually bring more data and it will actually encourage innovation. Because if you've got data, you can also innovate. Like I said earlier on, it has to be across what's the word I'm looking at? Multi-stakeholder, we're at the IGF, multi-stakeholder collaboration. So we need private sector. Private sector are the big guns. They will actually help us build our data-driven solutions. We need governments and ICT regulators to actually adapt and adopt these regulations that we're putting in place and ensure that they're domesticated at the national level. We need academia. They're the ones that will tell us what we need to be looking at 2-3 years from now. Last but not least, we need our partners. We can't do it without them. It's not always about reinventing the wheel. You can actually take what has been done in a different region, bring it here and tailor it to the nuances of West Africa. And then I want to say we definitely cannot do it without the citizens. If the citizens don't use data, if the citizens don't understand the need for data, or the citizens don't actually use any of the solutions we put to place, it's pointless. So we definitely need to bring our citizens on board. They need to be recognized. It needs to be inclusive, and then we can hopefully have a trusted digital ecosystem.
Thank you so much for Lake, much appreciated. That's what's happening in Western Africa. So let's move on and hear from Southeastern Europe. Olga, that region navigates national data ecosystems with broader regional dynamics. Yeah? How would you describe the current state of data governance in the region? What are the most prominent dynamics within the region?
Thank you for the question. When talking about my region, I like to describe Southeastern Europe as a region with high digital ambition. Also, what makes the region truly unique is that it remains divided between the countries that are operating under the EU regulatory framework, such as GDPR, for example, Croatia, and the countries who are still in the process of securing full institutional and legal compliance, such as North Macedonia. This regulatory divide has real consequences, especially when it comes to cross-border trust and data sharing. While the EU member states are benefiting from structured oversight and shared enforcement mechanisms, for the neighboring non-EU countries, even those whose laws quite closely mirror the EU standards, it is often still a challenge because very often they are still considered as third countries in terms of data protection guarantees and safeguards. And this status itself introduces friction into the data flows, especially when it comes to public health, education, and digital services where cooperation is supposed to be seamless and smooth. As you can see, the region is caught in between fragmentation and convergence. Fragmentation still defines the legal space, the institutional capacity, and the technical infrastructure. But there is also a growing convergence of ambition. We know that there are almost all countries in the region who are having either the EU accession ambition or they are trying to integrate into the global digital markets, and this is why they are trying to take the example of the European Union and to standardize and harmonize their laws and their enforcement practices in the sphere of data protection and data governance with the European Union model. This moment also presents both a challenge and an opportunity for our region. When we talk about the challenge, this is usually comes to bridging the digital legal divide, which stalls the cooperation. So it's really very important to ensure that the legal frameworks really talk to each other and there are no major discrepancies. But there is also the opportunity which lies in building shared regional trust frameworks which go beyond the simple compliance mechanisms. And I think so far our region is doing quite a good job in trying to adopt the legal frameworks which are according to the best safeguarding practices in terms of data governance and data protection. There is, of course, quite a long way to go for some countries compared to others, because, as I said, the region is not uniform. But this is also what is making the region unique and interesting example for sharing the practices and the case studies with other regions in the world.
Thank you very much. I hear a couple of similarities from your region, Southeastern Europe and Western Africa. Issues around harmonization and compliance mechanisms, issues around interoperability, around responsible sharing of data. But we are at the IGF, so we cannot not ask about the role of the IGF. Where you sit, you have the regional IGF CDIG. How is it contributing to harmonizing data governance frameworks, have there been any successful models from the region that are emerging that could serve as a template for others?
I believe that IGFs and CIDIC in particular have a crucial role to play in this whole process. First of all, we are contributing by identifying shared priorities across the region. We are connecting the in-country stakeholders from across the region, and we bring them to the same room and facilitate the dialogue between these stakeholders. And as the next step, we also help to improve trust between counterparts from neighboring countries and help them improve coordinating with each other beyond the borders of their nation states. So, of course, CIDIC, as any IGF initiative, is not the space that can create the laws, but we are definitely the space that can create the opportunity where the better laws and better cooperation can be shaped, and where the new initiatives with some practical value can take the beginning. I would also say that for fragmented regions like ours, usually creating the very fact of creating the habit of cooperation is an important first step to trusted cooperation throughout the years. And I think this is what the initiatives like CIDIC are doing. Also, there is as I mentioned, there is the emerging practice in our region of shaping the convergence between different countries, and I think this is important also to have this culture of different stakeholders talking to each other. Of course, during the CIDIC meetings, which are happening on the annual basis, we have we repeatedly have the sessions which are touching from different perspectives the issues of data governance and data protection, which and we usually get a lot of proposals on these specific topics, which means that this is something which resonates with the stakeholders in the region and which is truly important to them. And also, for the upcoming meeting this year in October that we will be hosting in Athens, we also have been partnering with the Council of Europe, and we'll be hosting a pre-event to the main meeting, gathering the representatives of the media regulatory authorities from Western Balkans, which is also a good example to start with some more trusted conversation where they feel more comfortable to share the challenges that they are experiencing on the daily basis. But then, of course, they will join the main meeting and will talk to other stakeholders, and there will be also the panel hosted so that this can truly shift to the multi-stakeholder conversation. So I would say this is probably not the solution for everything, having the space like IGF, but this is obviously a good beginning where the good initiatives could start.
Good. Thank you for sharing these inputs, very insightful in regional challenges from Western Africa, from Southeastern Europe. The examples illustrate the importance of the work that regional organizations are doing in facilitating data governance among states. We have looked at national and regional perspectives on data governance, and would like now to invite perspectives of civil society into the conversation. We will begin with the TATU. The digital code recently adopted in Kyrgyzstan aims to create a favorable environment for digital services and data processing. From your perspective, how has the national approach to data governance evolved over the recent years? And what opportunities and challenges does civil society have when engaging in data policy and implementation processes?
Thank you. At the regional level, Kyrgyzstan is the first to use an integration gateway for secure and transparent data exchange between the state bodies and business. This innovative approach is part of Kyrgyzstan's recent digital code, which set a standard for data handling, focusing on legality, minimization of data collection, accuracy and integrity to build a better digital environment. Kyrgyzstan doesn't use centralization and localization of data. centralization of data has risks for data protection, and localization of data creates additional burden to business. And this approach differs from many neighboring countries like Kazakhstan and Uzbekistan, where data centralization and localization of data is used. Therefore, challenges for civil society, risks on data protection and ethical use still remain.
Very well. Thank you for that. As a follow-up, what opportunities do you see for civil society to bridge regional and global data governance efforts?
For Central Asia countries are economically interdependent, making data exchange crucial for interaction. However, cross-border data exchange raises concerns about ensuring adequate data security. Therefore, civil society must primarily monitor the arrangement of data exchange to ensure its countries guarantee transparency, accountability, and inclusivity.
Thank you so much. I will now move to Mary quickly. Armenia is navigating digital transformation. Coming from the non-government sector, why is it important to bring civic tech voices into public policy processes, and what role are they playing today in advancing robust data frameworks?
Thank you very much for the question, and you are completely right. Armenia is going toward digital transformation and had to make notable progress in recent years by launching e-governance platforms, digitizing public services, initiating important data governance projects. And currently the country working on building both legal and technical frameworks that needed to support these transformations. And these frameworks aim to define how public information is accessed, to set the standards for data collection and processing, and as well as to regulate the use and the management of databases. But from my perspective, I think that this effort not only depends on technological advancements or standards or rules or protocols, but also on inclusive and participatory governance. That's why I think that civic tech voices into public policy processes are essential. As Armenia built trust in public institutions, it needs the insights and oversights of actors that actually serves as a bridge between citizens and public institutions. And civic tech organizations such as nonprofits, such as watchdog groups or data advocates or digital rights defenders play a crucial role in the process. And I think our involvement does not only include just monitoring digital projects, but also to flag the ethical concerns, to identify the data misuse or to address barriers of the excess of data. And in areas like practically in procurement, in budget, or beneficiary transparency, beneficiary ownership platforms that Armenia has, these are the transparency tools that have shown the greatest impact when they are complemented by the engagement and oversight of the public. I can say just for our organizational perspective and experience, we're just not doing the monitoring, but we go beyond simply evaluating an impact, and we do outreach projects, we do education for citizens so they can understand how their data is used, why digital systems is matter, and how e-government platforms can improve public services for everyone. So like in short, the civic tech voices are not just contributors, but are essential partners to build digital systems that are ethical, that are inclusive, and also serves for the public.
Thank you very much. Could we briefly also maybe look at some of the capacity gaps that organizations you work with face in leveraging data for sector initiatives?
For someone who worked many years in public sector, then in international organization, and now serving from civil society, I see maybe the issues more crystal clear, and maybe I can state one issue that is important, has the importance. I think the lack of clear data strategy maybe is the main challenges, and I think that without a unified vision of a roadmap on how data supports the missions, the efforts somehow become fragmented in public institutions. So the weak data governance, I think, often results to unclear ownership and inconsistent data quality controls. So as we run out of the time, I just be in the short for this question.
We have time. No worries. So thanks, everybody. A lot of insights, but before we go to the publics to give us some comments and questions, we would like for each participant to use just 1 minute to give something actionable. Considering the many common challenges that we've discussed, what practical steps can your regions take in the next 12 months to strengthen interregional, international cooperation on data governance, especially around areas like standard setting, like data interoperability and oversight mechanisms? We'll take this, I think, the same way we went, beginning with the minister and then the commissioner and then Olga.
Well, thank you very much. I think one of the practical steps that we can consider is to establish a continental data governance framework so that we can finalize and promote adoption of the AU data policy framework across all member states. This will create a shared baseline for data protection, cross-border data flows, but also interoperability across the continent. Another thing we can also consider is to harmonize national data protection laws across the continent, so we can encourage countries to align with continental standards like the Malabo Convention and the internationally, but also internationally with the GDPR style protections. This will reduce fragmentation, but also promote easier cross-border collaboration and trust in African data systems. Another thing to consider also is to engage in global standard setting bodies to increase African representation in ISO, IEEE, UN bodies, for example, the ITU and others. This will ensure Africa's interest and realities are reflected in global data standards and regulatory frameworks. And then perhaps we can also consider building regional oversight and coordination mechanisms to create or empower sub-regional data governance hubs. This will help us oversee policy compliance, technical cooperation, joint investigations on cross-border data breaches, but also encourage shared accountability and mutual learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Commissioner?
Thank you. In the next 12 months, in order to strengthen regional and international cooperation in the field of data governance in our region of the Western Balkans, we plan to hold multilateral and bilateral meetings with DPAs from the region and with the relevant representatives of executive authorities, IT companies, and other companies. As a good example of that multilateral meetings, I can tell that existing initiative 2017, from 2017, on initiative of Slovenia, which gather all DPAs from former Yugoslavia. And it is a very interesting combination because we have 2 member states of EU, Slovenia and Croatia, and 4 which are not member of EU, as Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, North Macedonia, and Serbia. But from these 4, Serbia and recently Bosnia and Herzegovina has a law of personal data protection which is complied with the GDPR and police directive of EU. Montenegro and North Macedonia has not yet. So it is one particular meeting, and second is the meeting of data protection authorities of Bosnia and Herzegovina, Montenegro, and Serbia on our initiative, how to solve the problem which we have with the Meta and X according to a changing of the privacy policy to use data, personal data for strengthening artificial intelligence.
Thank you. Olga.
I think my job is now much easier responding to this question of the Commissioner, because I don't actually need to reinvent the wheel. I would just align with the idea of having interregional dialogue on cross-border data sharing between the data protection authorities. And what I can offer from my side, as long as we are going to host our annual meeting in October, which is still pretty much time until that moment, I can suggest to have some side meeting or run the session with the DPAs during the CIDIC meeting, and so that we can also bring this conversation to the regional community. And this will be another step in developing this idea and making sure that what we have mentioned over here is not just staying at the level of ideas, but we actually take the follow-up action on what we are discussing here. And I also think that one of the things that could be done is some kind of mapping and of the regulatory bottlenecks in cross-border data sharing. This can show us where are still the challenges in terms of regulatory frameworks, infrastructure, and interoperability. And then from there, different DPAs in different regions could take those findings and recommendations to ensure further alignment through bilateral and multilateral meetings.
Thank you so much, Olga. We'll go to Folake.
Thank you very much. So I'm going to piggyback on the Honorable Minister from Gambia's words. He's already spoke about harmonization and alignment and all that. So if that is taking place in the Gambia, by default, hopefully it means it will have moved to Senegal and then hopefully moved to Sierra Leone. So now I'm going to assume those three countries have done all the harmonization the Honorable Minister was talking about. What I would like to see is a setup of a controlled tests environment where we can actually get all these member states, the public agencies of member states, to actually trial an interoperable platform. Now, if we're able to do this for certain sectors, such as health, education, identity systems, and it works, we will be able to then take those lessons and scale up to a regional event. Thank you.
Excellent. We'll now...
Okay.
Good. Yeah.
First of all, I support all proposals, and currently at all international platforms we advising an initiative to create an intergovernmental agreement on data exchange among Central Asia countries, open for other countries to join. And this is because data is the new oil, and issues of access crucial, not only within a country, but also at the regional level.
Thank you so much. And finally, Mary?
For Armenia, what I can say that country uses international experience and incorporating many initiatives, for instance, in interoperability, like using X-Road for like an Estonian model. And I think that many practical exercises should be done. So it could be like piloting a small-scale data sharing initiatives to understand whether the cross-border public service delivery works or not. And it could be in different areas, and starting with like consular or migration or environmental areas. So this would lead to this will gives us room to understand how transparency project or how can open data portals could work in shared policy areas.
Thank you so much, panelists, for those great ideas. on joint initiatives, on what is relevant to work on in the future. Would like now to invite any comments or questions, and if whoever has any question or comment, please, there is a mic over there. Please get there and shoot your question or comment. Yes, we have 1 or 2 individuals going to ask questions. Any others, please go ahead and ask. You may mention your name and where you come from. If you want a particular individual to answer the question, you may also direct it to them.
Thank you all, and very excellent panelists. So, and all the points actually you raised is, I mean, to the critical and the points of the data governance, cross-border governance. So there's one new protocol and a new framework about, it's called SOLID. And social linked data actually can help address all the issues and related to the cross-border governance. So currently, because all the panelists actually from, the emerging countries, and emerging countries currently also need the language to be supported by large language models. And all the language and the culture can be preserved if the language data sets can be owned by your own country, but also can be cross-border and with solid protocol and the Lingo AI. So Lingo AI is working on the whole solution and can address the issues that you raised. So, and my question is, and the solid is proposed, invented by the founding father of the World Wide Web, called 13 Berners-Lee, and he joined IGF 3 times. Okay, so I would like to know the deployment or awareness of your countries and to the new protocol of our next generation web. And this protocol was invented to take care of the data control and the data ownership and data sovereignty and cross-border issues. And I'm not sure whether your nation, your country or region have adopted or have the awareness of solid protocol. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much. The question we have received, anybody is welcome to respond to it. While speaking about not only the element of awareness of the protocol, but what kind of initiatives are underway in order to promote data ownership, but also encourage cross-data flows. Who is willing to give us a comment?
Let me.
Yes, Commissioner.
As I know, Serbia didn't adopt that protocol yet, but when I heard how good is a protocol for data protection, I'm surely that Serbia will adopt soon. Thank you.
Excellent. Other responses?
Maybe I can add something. I think that Armenia or any other country localize sensitive data such as biometric information or health records. And also for Armenian cases, I know that government working on distinguish between the sensitive data and less sensitive data. And I think that having different kind of protocols or standards internationally recognized could also impact on the cross-border data sharing, but first of all, for countries that are in a process of implementation and adoption of data governance frameworks, first of all, need to distinguish between sensitive and less sensitive data, and then move forward on adopting international standardization. And I am hopeful that countries like Armenia that are landlocked or emerged will step forward to this initiative to make it possible the cross-border public service delivery across country and out of the country.
Singapore Internet Governance Forum. So I'm the coordinator and co-founder for SG-IGF. And SG-IGF like to work with every countries and the representatives and to help to and promote and the solid protocol and the Lingo AI to help, actually protect the language and the data and the culture for all the emerging countries. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Useful contextual information. We know where you're coming from, and I think many of us will be willing to reach out to you. The minister has a response to that as well.
I think the issue with language is a bit complex because Africa has over 2,000 languages. Some countries have 56 languages, some have 200 languages. So for us, just like Serbia, we haven't really considered this yet. We, as a small country, 2.5 million people, we have almost 11 to 12 different languages, which are totally different. So how we really harmonize this with the language, with 2,000 languages, it's difficult. Yes, I mean, because of the colonial history, we have French Africa, we have Spanish Africa, Portuguese Africa, English Africa. Perhaps this is something we can consider, using those languages, but not our indigenous languages.
Yes, Lingo AI is actually designed for the indigenous languages because, when AI become popular, become a commodity, and everyone currently in emerging countries almost all use English as a language and to prompt and to get the generative AI result. And gradually, the indigenous language will be forget, and especially the culture built on the languages. So for large companies, if they want to support indigenous languages, and they are going to collect the data, in this centralized way, the data will be owned by the centralized company, and after they fine-tuning the large language model, the data will be continuously collected to the larger companies. So the data will run out of your countries, and your people and the country don't own the data. This is called the digital colonization. So the new protocol and the solid and the Lingo AI is helping to anti, this kind of a digital colonization, because
so
everyone will hold their own data. Okay, thank you very much.
Data colonization and data sovereignty are key issues in our conversation from where many of us come from. So it's great to know there is something that is addressing that. We will reach out to you, but we do have another comment. Thank you, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. I think my question might be a little premature looking at the landscape in our country, but I will go ahead and ask anyway. Where there is no IGF, no local iOS, where do you suggest this conversation starts in terms of thinking about regulations and guidance and protocol for cross-border data protection? Should it start with the regulator for the sector? Should it be emanating from civil society? Suggestions I'm open to hear. Some quick guidelines in the 2 seconds we probably have.
Thank you. Would you mind telling us where you're from?
The Bahamas.
Oh. Lucky you. But we have IGF and you don't, so All right, we'll begin with Olga. She has a response.
I think there is, it's not really the problem that you don't have yet a dedicated space, because the dialogue can be created just from the desire to have the conversation. And very often you can have a much more open and trusted dialogue once you talk to stakeholders who are actually having the decision-making and policy-making power. Sometimes even having the decision-making power, but sometimes they might not have the full availability many, or might not be that much in full capacity to execute and enforce. And sometimes just some small support and push from outside might be the beginning of a good positive change inside the country. So I would say if you want something specifically from the DPA, go to DPA. If you want from someone else, go to them. Start maybe from bilateral one-to-one meetings, and once they feel more comfortable to talk to other stakeholders, then you can extend this dialogue.
Thank you very much. Other panelists?
Maybe one.
Yes, please.
Only few words. It must be multilateral, no bilateral. So when I said multilateral, it means data protection authorities, stakeholders, executive bodies, all, and civil society.
Thank you very much. We do have another question. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm Joseph. I'm here for the Wikimedia Foundation. I was very interested in the Serbian Commissioner's comment about privacy as a human right, which of course we completely agree that it is. But of course there are many other human rights, the right to freedom of information and expression. And I'd like to ask the entire panel very broadly how, through this process of harmonizing regional data protection laws and implementing such new laws, how we can ensure that all human rights are respected throughout this process, and that the right to privacy does not come at the expense of any other potential right.
So thanks for that question. What we are going to do is that we are going to couple it up with another related question. Namely, in many countries, there's a diversity of legal systems and institutional maturity is different, okay? How can we move also between towards mutual recognition of data protection frameworks without undermining national data sovereignty? I would like you to reflect on that for 1 minute, even as we all answer the question from the participant from Wikimedia. Wikipedia, yeah. And everyone will have 1.5 minutes. Tie in your last word as well, please. we will go. This time, let's start from my left. Then move on.
Okay, maybe I can start. I think there is a blurred line between protecting digital rights and the expression of freedom of information, and sometimes governments need to deal with that, not to ban the freedom of information while also considering how to protect them and how to protect their rights in internet, because in recent years the internet gives us a broad massive of information which can lead to fake news, which can lead to disinformation, and for the government it's important to underline this line and protect their rights, but also not to violate the freedom of information. And concerning the question, I think there should be formal cooperation channels between different countries for data protection agencies in different countries, so that they can set clear protocols for audits, incident responses, or enforcement coordination, etc. So my perspective is that these formal cooperation channels could lead to the national digital sovereignty and to implement data protection frameworks.
Thanks, Mary. Tatio, the same for you.
Continue our previous discussion about synchronization and harmonization of approaches between countries are crucial. We need to create an environment of trust and organize a transparent data exchange, making it clear who is using the data and for what purpose, I think.
Thank you so much. We'll go to Olga and then the Commissioner.
So as a lawyer, I don't see the mutual recognition of data protection frameworks as a threat to national sovereignty, but it's rather an issue of legal interoperability. So we often don't need to create the identical laws, but what we really need is to create the trustworthy equivalence and to create the trust which is cross-border trust, so that whenever the data is shared, there are also some safeguards in place and responsibility which comes for the breach of mishandling of data, but also I would say that it's important to ensure that there is transparent oversight and independent enforcement whenever it comes to handling the personal data. So once that in place, it's just a matter of dialogue and trust between the borders and between the nation states.
Thanks, Olga.
When we speak about sovereignty and data protection authority, it is possible because any law which is based as a law in Serbia on GDPR and police directive have exceptions of the principles. If is a national security in question, you have exceptions of ordinary data protection authority. We have two models of data protection authorities, ordinary and specially, which made the bodies in that situation, like is the organized crime, national security, etc. And according to the question of the Wikimedia, I must say something. Exist states in Europe and in the world which have a two-in-one system, two bodies which protect two rights, two human rights, personal data protection and free access to information of public importance. It is a situation in Serbia. So I think that it is a good situation because you can measure in any particular case what is stronger, personal data protection or right to know of the public.
Thank you, Commissioner. We'll go to Folake for her 1 minute, and then we'll end with the Minister.
Thank you very much. So, yeah, obviously we all agree that building trust is required around data. For me, I know sovereignty matters, but it's also about the connection. So we need to make sure we get the right balance between protecting what is ours and what will allow us to grow. So I think those are my final words. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll end with the Minister.
Yes, I think we were able to solve the problem by, we currently have the Access to Information Commission, which has been operationalized. And once we pass the data protection law by the end of this year, we're going to merge these two commissions so they can be able to fulfill that role of balancing each other, like the commissioner from Serbia has said, so that we're going to have one commission responsible for access to information, but also oversight over data protection. And my final words would be 3 words will summarize what I've been saying here today. There is harmonization, harmonization, harmonization. We need to harmonize legal and regulatory frameworks and legally binding EU-wide data governance charter aligned with the Malabo Convention, but also with the GDPR principles and Global Digital Compact. And finally, we need to create uniform standards for consent, privacy, cross-border flows, and AI ethics. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sise. Thank you, Commissioner Marinovic. Thank you, Mary, Folake, Olga, and Tato. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me.